I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Geno TV and Channel 99. We have as our guest today Genifer Costanzo, who is the coordinator of Autism Speaks, having recently stepped into that job. Jennifer, welcome. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Good to see you, Dan.
So what does your job overall entail?
Well, I'm the coordinator for the Nantucket Autism Resource Center for Autism Speaks, which is the national organization. What's so unique about the Resource Center here in Nantucket, it's the only resource center in which Autism Speaks has, nationally. So what my job really entails in that role is helping families, coordinating them to care, services, and not just children who might be, or families who are on the autism spectrum, but for all families on Nantucket who have a disability.
How many patients, if that's the right word, how many participants, how many people do you serve?
Well, I wouldn't consider them patients because we're not a medical model or anything in that regard. They're more like our clients, family, and friends is really how I refer to them. On the spectrum, I would say we have like 47 families. But as we know, autism, we diagnose people at a much earlier rate. So therefore the rates have increased, and it's more prevalent in males than it is in females.
I didn't know that. It's interesting because I have a niece who was diagnosed fairly recently as being on the low end of the spectrum. I was not aware that it had a target of choice, so to speak. Anyway, so what kinds of services do you link these people up with?
Well, just for an example, since it's summer, what we do in the summer, we have summer activities. So we try to adapt some of the sports or water activities for those who are on the spectrum. We had the Sail to Prevail, we had an ice cream cruise, compliments of Shearwater, we had a pirate cruise that we coordinated with on the Bell with Westmore Club, and then we've been very fortunate to have surfing lessons with Nantucket Surfing. So those are just some of the fun summer activities, and we also partner with STAR that's ran by Tina Stedman. She does a fabulous job. A lot of the people who access the Resource Center use her services or STAR services during the summer. But then during the other months, we have a respite care that we have that at the Boys and Girls Club on Sundays for families, and that's really
basically
good.
To give the families relief.
Exactly, exactly. And what I just want to say too, what's so important is some of the activities that their siblings get to go. The whole family gets to go for free, and so it's really nice for a whole fun family experience. So we have the respite care. We do also coordinating them to services that are off island as well. We have camps that we do. If they need, a doctor's appointment, if they need to go see a specialist, we try to coordinate that, or bring, doctors here to the island, have lectures. There's so much, that I'm learning that the Resource Center has done since I've only been in this position for, 2 months now.
Are you the only staff member, or are there others?
I'm the only staff member.
We would be remiss, I think, if we didn't mention Suzanne Wright during the course of this interview, who was the founder of Autism Speaks, along with her husband, Robert, and who passed away recently. And I know you don't know a whole lot about their involvement, but I think it's just important that people understand that her memory lives on through this resource center here in Nantucket. And I gather her involvement was originally because they had a child who has autism in some fashion.
Well, it was their grandson.
Grandson,
Christian. And that's how Autism Speaks started. It was through their personal family experience and how it affected, their family. And so they decided to have this crusade, if you will, and start Autism Speaks, because her motto was, every child, every person deserves to have a fulfilled life to the best of their ability. And that's really what Autism Speaks is in a nutshell. Through our research that we have, through the courses that we teach, through the toolkits that we provide, it's all about, complementing that individual where they are. And Suzanne and Bob took it upon themselves to start this, and they made it not only nationally but internationally as well. She spoke at the Vatican, which was just unbelievable, and then she also spoke at the UN for 7 years in a row.
Have you set any personal goals for yourself in terms of expanding the services or doing things better or so forth? I mean, I think it was probably left in pretty good hands by Kim.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure somebody with your experience can bring additional things to bear. So I just wondered what kind of things you perhaps have been thinking about.
Well, I can't say enough about Kim Horn. I mean, she was very passionate about this cause of Autism Speaks. She put her heart, soul, mind, and body all into it, and she's been invaluable for me as a mentor. And so she definitely left it in good shape, and she worked tirelessly for this whole effort. But I guess on a personal level, I would like to get more integrated into the schools. I feel like very fortunate to have an office, compliments of the Nantucket Public School System, just to try to.
Where is that office?
I'm right now adjacent to the library, but since there's so much construction there, I'll be moving, next year. But I like this office, and I think one of the goals of the Autism Speaks is for early diagnosis. So the more that I could get into the elementary school and let people know what the services are, that's a personal mission. And just to get to know the families and really get to know what their needs are, because that's really the purpose of the Resource Center.
There's some people who it's obvious that there's a problem.
Right.
But there are others that it's less obvious. In fact, maybe not obvious unless you really start looking for it.
True.
Right? And those are the ones presumably you're trying to get at earlier rather than later.
Correct.
The people who are marginally autistic, if you will, or the less affected end of the spectrum. How do those people get identified, and how do they end up with Autism Speaks?
Well, you can start for detection usually between the ages of 2 or 3, because autism affects your verbal and communication skills is really one of the most identifying symptoms, if you will. So it's hard to be able to detect that, any younger than that, because most children don't start to really speak till around 2 or 3. So, if you do notice any type, or if a parent or a loved one notices any type of verbal delay or communication delay, if they become more, withdrawn, you can go through a screening process. And we do have professionals here on the island that offer that type of screening, and then based on those recommendations, either through them or your pediatric doctor, then that's how you would start that process, by identifying what the delay might be. And then you would, give me a call, or you can call the national office, and then we take it from there.
But there are kids who aren't identified until they're older as well.
Correct.
How does that happen?
Well, I think, maybe a parent notices that their learning is not catching up to where they are through their age. Or they might be in school and the parent hasn't noticed it, and a teacher can identify what's going on. Or they go through some type of testing. And so when they are identified or marginally identified, then they get connected to the Resource Center through the special education department at the school.
Do you keep track of your graduates, so to speak, the ones after they leave the school system? Do you stay involved with them or keep track of them?
Yeah, I would say Autism Speaks, and this was one of the key factors for me, is what really drew me to the organization, because it is a continuum of care, is the way I look at it. That you can go through this transition phase, which is the age in which you're speaking to, that once they age out of the academic setting. And then so what do they do, when they're 21 and after that? And so, as a community, that is another one of my goals, is, how are we providing for this transitional phase of our clients? Do I keep a close track? Well, being new in the position, I haven't had that kind of relationship yet. But I would say, yes, it's very important, because then they become valuable stewards, if you will, of Autism Speaks, because they offer that kind of hope from their experience, how they've been able to excel. They have found their passion, and that's one of the key goals, is because there's always something that's very valuable in every single person. So if you can connect that value to a service in which they like to do, then they provide for the community as well.
How does Autism Speaks work in other communities where they don't have this resource center?
Well, you have what's called a field staff, and they also have family services. So they might not have the resource center, but they have the staff, and they go out and they hold what they call town halls. So to provide the information, to talk about safety awareness, to talk about family services. So it's more of home visits and things like of that nature, making it a little bit more public.
You're having an event.
We're having a big event. It's our 10th year anniversary for the Autism Speaks Walk here in Nantucket. It started here in Nantucket because of Suzanne and Bob Wright. The power of them has just been, well felt all over the country and internationally. So we have our walk coming up, and I brought you an Autism Speaks hat.
Oh, thank you.
And so it's going to be this Saturday. The 20th, kickoff is at 9:30. The walk starts, but we really would love people to come down. Like at 8:30, we have a lot of fun events, and we also have.
Where's it start? The Jetties?
At the Jetties Beach. Yeah, location is kind of important, and it's just a really fun family event.
Is there a fee for participating?
There is not a fee, but we would love people to make a donation to walk because it does support Autism Speaks.
So, anything else that we should know about Autism Speaks at this point?
Well, I think it's just about awareness and about the research and, finding that missing, puzzle piece for all children. Because
Is that what this is?
That's what that is. That was
I never knew that. I don't know how dumb I am, but I never realized that was what that was.
Yeah. That was Suzanne's mission, to find the missing piece.